the demand is indeed growing, but I will just segregate the two between independent living communities for seniors and assisted living. For the purpose of this conversation, I'll limit myself to independent. And yes, there are more and more people above the age of 60 who are staying on their own, alone in their homes. And the reason for that is that a lot of their children or have moved out. A, first they've educated themselves very well, and B, globalization has given them the opportunity to be working anywhere in the country, in many cases anywhere in the world, and therefore their parents are living alone. The experience over the last 2 years has even made it even more clear that rather than living alone and being responsible for a lot of activities of daily living and depend on others, it's much nicer, safer, and in fact better from removing loneliness point of view to be part of a community. So the demand has gone through the roof over the last 2 years. So what I call a regular residential community, I call it a mixed family condominium structure, right? These are places where people with children, young couples on their own, and seniors, everybody is living together. The needs of each of these groups of people are very different, right? Some people want play areas, some people want quiet areas, some people want swimming pools, badminton courts, tennis courts, and so on and so forth. And therefore, as a result of which, senior citizens end up paying for facilities that they'll never use, right? Whereas a senior living community is designed with them in mind. So from a design point of view, there are no transitions. So it'll be good for them. Every single square inch of the community will be accessible and usable by them at the age of 55 and the age of 95. Now, that needs to be designed into the community from day one. That's just the product side. It's the services that really differentiate it, and that any good senior living community should deliver on three promises. Number one, it should guarantee the resident a hassle-free lifestyle. So which means everything from security to maintenance to housekeeping inside and outside the home, food and beverage requirements. I'm going away for 2 weeks, who will look after my plants? None of these should be a worry, right? So it's a hassle-free lifestyle, zero headache. So your time gets released to do the things you want to do instead of doing the things that you have to do. And no matter which other mixed family community you stay in, you have to be dependent on outsiders for these services. The second big promise that any good senior living community does is about keeping you healthier for longer. We've already spoken about social interaction versus loneliness. One's an accelerator of aging, the other is a preventer of aging. But more than that, a good senior living community, in its daily plan of action and activities, creates opportunities, creates spaces, and creates events that allow people to come together and focus on 6 very important elements: physical, mental, intellectual, emotional, spiritual, and nutrition. All 6 massaged well, focused on individually, will make you healthier in life. There is nothing that says that the graph must point downwards as you age. The graph can point upwards. It depends on what you do during the day. And a good senior living community will keep you healthier for longer. The third element, which of course is not available in any mixed family condominium, is the presence of a healthcare setup within the community, which is proactive because there are camps being organized to make sure we are checking on all aspects of a person's physical and mental health. There is reactive, so God forbid if there is an emergency, we are able to take you from your bed to the nearest to best hospital bed in the shortest time possible and have a relationship with the hospital that gets you through seamlessly, registration and none of the hassles that you would normally face, and straight into getting the best medical attention that you need. So hassle-free, positive aging whereby you are healthier for longer, and C, proactive and reactive medical support. The 3 is what differentiates it completely from any mixed family condominium setup. It does come at a premium when you compare it against a residential community, right? But if you were to take what you pay in a regular residential community, add what you pay to your maid and to your cook so the economies of scale in a senior living community, plus add, now remember I mentioned the medical infrastructure. I pray to God you never need it, right? But what it does give you, and you pay for it every month, but what it does give you is the peace of mind of it being there should it be required. And it gives peace of mind to two people. It gives peace of mind to you as a resident, and it gives peace of mind to your children and extended family who know they don't need to feel worried about mom and dad. Also, they don't need to feel guilty about not being there with mom and dad. What's the premium you pay for that, right? So, between the economies of scale of the services that you use and the peace of mind that comes to you from the services that one hopes you never use, it's nothing compared. I won't even call it a premium. I would call it great value. The way they work is that there is a fixed charge for all the services that you normally tend to use throughout the month. And then for things like food and beverage, additional caregivers, additional medical support, whatever you take over and above that is charged specifically to you for the services that you are using. But for things like housekeeping, security, inside, outside, in our premium brand, we also look after weekly bath and bed linen, and all of those services, they come to you as part of the service charge. Classically, or because culturally in India, we are very much parents look after their children, and then in turn children look after their parents' country. And that's not changed. That is still the case. What has changed is circumstances. Children and parents, because of the parents' desire to give their children the best opportunities in life, because the children's education and availability of opportunities, they're not staying together by circumstance, not by choice, but by circumstance. When that happens, parents need to have a lifestyle. They don't want to be dependent either. Now, what has changed dramatically over the last 2 or 3 years, I would say. Number one, people are looking at senior living communities at a younger age. Our youngest future resident is 48 years old, right? And these are people who are what I call dialing down on work, dialing up on life. They've earned well, they want to live life to the fullest, and they don't want any of the hassles of day-to-day living, right? So they are definitely getting younger. So senior living communities used to have an average age of 75, 80. The average age has come down to 65, 67, right? And the youngest, like I said, are in their 50s. So you get a nice mix of people across ages in that community. So that's a big change. People are coming in younger. The second big change that has happened is people are asking for a higher quality of service and amenities, right? The third thing is that children who used to be impediments to this decision of the parents to buy into a senior living community because they almost felt guilty that their parents were buying a senior living community as a subliminal message that we can't count on you, are actually encouraging their parents because they know their parents are in a safer environment, in a nicer environment with friends who will be with them for the rest of their lives. So these are the three things. Listen, the demand for senior living communities in the last study that was done in 2019 found a gap of 10x between supply and demand, right? That was 2019. We are 3 years and one pandemic later, right? India adds between 5 to 6 million seniors a year, right? Everybody focuses on millennials as the new market or whatever, but really the people with the time, the money, and the desire to have a good time are the seniors. Every city can have 2, 3, 4 of our communities on sale across micro markets, and there is enough demand. We find that our future residents are living in the best home of their lives when they choose to move into our community. That's because in their working life, through aspiration and through need, because they had children, they were looking after their own parents, they were in 3, 4, 5 bedroom homes, right? But there comes a time when the rooms only gather dust and you have to do dusting, but really there aren't any residents except when the children come back once in a year, that they need to move into a community where they have to worry about fewer things. So normally you will find that we have two brands. There is the mid-market brand and the premier brand, and we will do 1 bedroom and 2 bedrooms homes in our mid-market brand, and 1, 2 and 3 bedroom homes in our premier brand. Number one has to do with the goods and services tax. Services provided in a senior living community are taxed today at 18%. So one, I would really urge the government to review the need for, and this demographic has paid taxes all their life, right? Can we just be kind to them at this stage in their life and say no goods and services tax? Because that benefit goes directly to the resident. The second thing that I'd really like the government to consider are what are called the parking norms for a senior living community. The fact of the matter is the government has put in, and rightfully so, fairly generous parking spaces to be allotted for homes being sold in a residential condominium. You will find a lot of them have to create basements because people have 2 cars and so on and so forth. This increases the cost of construction. When you increase cost of construction, it gets passed on to the customer. Data says that only 30% of our residents own cars, right? And only 30% of them use cars on a daily basis. So for 9% daily using residents, we have to create this infrastructure for 100% of the residents. So the norms on parking, if they could be revised for senior living, will allow us to not spend as much on construction and thereby make the asset cheaper for the residents, and therefore they actually pay for only what they use rather than paying for spaces that they will never use.